couple of weeks ago, my friend sent me a video on TikTok of someone eating what they called a birria pizza. It's not really a pizza at all, it's more like a quesadilla, but it's a birria quesadilla. I love birria, I want an excuse to make birria, and I happen to have some beef shin in the fridge that I really want to use. So what I've got here is 2 pieces of beef shin. They're pretty cheap given what you can do with them. And if you've never seen beef shin like this before, you might recognize the Thor's hammer. So if you can imagine, these were on top of each other, possibly not from the same beef shin bone. These are basically just slices of a Thor's hammer, also known as osso buco, if that's how you pronounce it. And the best thing about these, although it takes a long time to break them down, they can be super tender, really good for low and slow, and this bone marrow in here. We're gonna be braising these, and this bone marrow, once it's been smoked, seasoned, broken down into that broth, is going to result in a super gelatinous, unctuous, just incredibly delicious birria broth. So we'll get these seasoned up. I've got 2 parts pepper to 1 part salt as per usual. I'm just going to hit them with that. I'm going to go pretty heavy on the rub. I want these to be nice and barky. And if you're looking for like that heavy beef, heavy bark, Texas style barbecue, and you're okay with kind of having pulled meats rather than sliced, although you could slice these, I guess, this is a really good way to kind of achieve that outcome. Add a little bit of liquid, help break things down a little bit. So we'll take these outside, get them onto the Weber. So I've got the Weber set up for some indirect cooking, and this is actually some charcoal left over from a previous cook. I'm not gonna add any more for now. And there's also a little bit of wood in there that I'm gonna toss in once this gets going. So we'll let this charcoal get lit for a little while and come back. Right, so this charcoal has been going for about 10 minutes or so. I'm guessing it's probably hot enough, or somewhere in the region of being hot enough. I don't really know. I don't have a temperature gauge for this. But what I'm gonna do is put a little split of wood on, some oak there. I'm sure that will catch pretty quickly. Gonna put these beef shins on. As I say, I don't actually have a working thermometer at the moment, so I've got the bottom vents fully open at the moment. I'm gonna put these vents over the top fully open, and I'm just gonna check it and see if it looks like it's cooking. And I might just drop my thermopen through there, my instant read thermometer in there, just to make sure that we're cooking round about 250. But to be honest, I'm really not that worried. Just want some good smoke flavor and get them up to a good temperature. Right, so about 5 hours later, I put a piece of wood on. This is gonna go up in a second. Put a piece of wood on, probably didn't need to. So about 5 hours later, these are temping at around 170 degrees Fahrenheit, and you can see that marrow is nice and soft. And I made a rookie mistake when I put these on. I didn't put a drip pan beneath these beef shins, so as that marrow melted, it started dripping into the bottom of the Weber, which obviously I don't want. So what you didn't see off camera is just a foil pan was put below both beef shins, so as that marrow has been melting, it's been dripping into the bottom. I want to save that. That's going to be really good in our birria. We're going to take them off and take them inside, and we will also recover all of this rendered fat and bone marrow. So these are inside now. Any way that you want to cook them until they're tender, you could go ahead and do that now. For me, I'm probably going to make up the birria broth tomorrow. So these are just going to chill out here for a bit. They're going to the fridge, and then tomorrow we'll make up our birria, and these can go in with all of that lovely melted rendered fat and bone marrow that's collected in the bottom, and all of this stuff, which is all jelly-like. So let's make some birria. So we've got some guajillo chilies, some ancho chilies, and a couple chilies diablo. Just open these up, remove all the seeds. I used to do this with a knife, but I find it far easier with a pair of scissors. Tossing them into a little pan. We're gonna toast these off. And feel free to let me know in the comments if this isn't considered an authentic birria. Or is it birria? Birria. If you're in Mexico, if you have this regularly or grew up on this, I'd love to know what you do different. If you do anything different at all, I'm sure you do. And we've got our dry chilies into a pan. I've only gone in with 1 arbol chili for now. My wife loves birria, but doesn't like it when I make it too hot. And I want her to enjoy this. I'll taste it, add more if I need to. I'm gonna put this onto a medium to low heat, just to toast it, get some of those oils going, just until it's fragrant. Get some water boiling, move them around a little bit. So these chilies have had a few minutes. I'm just gonna whack them into this pan of water. Sorry, Sam. Just wanna soften these up a little. Right, so these have been bubbling away for about 10-15 minutes or so. We're gonna get them into the NutriBullet. The smell of these chilies is delicious. Go in with a ladle for now of this liquid. Lid on. That needs a little more water. Whoa. Nice and thick, nice and red. Puts to the side to cool down. So we have our big pot on, probably too big for the amount of birria we're doing, but we're gonna go in with some rendered beef fat, some tallow, some dripping, the onions and garlic we just cut up. We'll let those fry off a little bit, get fragrant, cook down a touch. Onions and garlic have softened up nicely. Gonna mix them in with the blended chilies. All good. Garlic and onions mixed in with the chili. So that is looking really good. Let's get this birria on the go. So we're gonna go in with our chili paste, a couple of bay leaves, chipotles in adobo sauce. I'm not gonna bother blending those, basically because I forgot. 3 cloves, a cinnamon stick, some cumin, some onion powder, some garlic powder, and I just added some beef stock, a little bit more water. And what I have here is the beef shin from the other day with all that bone marrow. I didn't get around to making this video in the time that I wanted to, so I put it in the freezer, vacuum sealed it, and it should be just as good as the day I made it. Although this vacuum seal did split, so we got a little bit of frostbite on there, but all that fat, that bone marrow is still all in there. So we're gonna pop these into the pot. Not fully defrosted, but they'll be fine. This is gonna cook for about 6 hours anyway. Make sure not to waste any of that marrow and fat that kind of came out in the bag. Oh, I forgot the Mexican oregano or oregano. Heaped teaspoon of that. So turn the heat up. I'm just gonna top this up with some extra water, make sure everything's covered. Go in with some salt and let this go for many hours. So we'll let that go. Just gonna leave that for a couple of hours, probably 4-6 hours maybe. Let those flavors develop, let that marrow come out. Obviously defrost the beef, get it tender. That beef wasn't tender when I took it off the pit. It still needed to braise. So we're gonna let it go and make the house smell really good. Right, so what I've got here is some Oaxaca cheese. So you won't be able to pick this up if you're in the UK. Anytime that I go over to Texas, I'll pick a couple of balls of this up, bring it home. So I'm gonna have to interject here. Since filming this video, I've been continuing my search for Oaxaca in the UK, and I found a company that sells it. I have spoken to this company before and they said they had no plans on making Oaxaca, but it looks like they do now. So I'll drop a link below where you can get some UK made Oaxaca cheese, or you could just use mozzarella. I'll drop a link below as to the one that I would use if I can't get hold of the Oaxaca. So we'll get the cheese shredded up and this can just sit in the fridge until later. So here I've got a white onion, and I left my chef knife somewhere, so I'm using the shitty Pro Gourmet Pro Cook one, which I don't recommend. So you don't often come across white onion here in the UK, but it is a lot more mild than your typical brown onion, and is the kind of onion that you would typically find anytime you're eating Mexican food or Tex-Mex food. It's gonna be white onion. Coriander or cilantro. Gonna go in with probably about half a lime. And that is gonna be your perfect coriander and onion to top your birria. So this birria is done. It's super tender. I'll show you that in a second. I have skimmed off pretty much all of the fat, or most of the fat that was sat on top, because we're gonna coat the tortillas in this, and that's what is hopefully gonna make them nice and crispy. And we've got one of our shin bones here. All the marrow has come out of it, not rendered, but kind of melted away into the broth. And that is gonna give it a huge amount of texture, flavor, just gonna make it all around delicious. So we're gonna discard that. I'm gonna fish out the bay leaf. Hopefully you can see that nice tender shin. That is perfect. That's exactly where we want it. There are a couple of cloves in here as well. I took the cinnamon stick out earlier whilst I could see it. Oh, I can't wait to eat it. Anyway, we are gonna fish out the rest of our good stuff. Get out all of the meat. See a little piece of cinnamon stick there. I think it's pretty good. And we've got in there our incredible birria stew broth. There's not actually a huge amount in there. It's probably only a litre or so. I've got a load of this in the freezer, so I'm not looking to make up, you know, a load of excess. All that gelatin, that bone marrow. This is gonna be delicious. So as far as this birria meat goes, I'm literally just gonna come in here and just squeeze it, pull it apart. You can see that nice smoke ring on there. And break it up into small shreddy chunks. I'm gonna have to try it. Oh my God. So I'm not making my own tortillas. These are pretty nice though. I got these offline. They're pretty good tortillas. Standard store-bought, shop-bought, but they do the job. So let's make up a birria pizza. Right, so we got our pan on a medium to medium high-ish heat. We're gonna go in with our skimmed fat. That is gonna hopefully warm up enough. That's gonna crisp up our tortilla. That's looking pretty good. So I'm gonna go in with my tortilla, and I'm pretty sure that's gonna be looking perfect. Yep. And then I'm gonna go on with a huge amount of Oaxaca cheese. That'll do. Meat. Tortillas starting to crisp up and fry at the edges. Gonna go on with a little bit more cheese because it might help the other tortilla stick as well. Onions and coriander. I'm just gonna get my top tortilla, paint it with that fat. I'll do that off camera. That's looking pretty good. Color on the bottom side is looking good. I'm just gonna have to go for it. Oh yeah, that is real crispy. So I think we are done. Onto a wire rack, just so it stays nice and crispy. Lift that off. That is way more than I'll need right now. Excess coriander and onions on, and a couple of lime wedges. That's looking pretty good. Please ignore the mess in the background. This is pretty tricky to get cooked and shot on camera. It's a pizza, so let's take a slice. Ooh. Oh my God, that is delicious. Look at that. Dip it in this absurdly huge consomme. Oh my God. A little bit of lime juice is one of those things where you think, does it taste as good as it looks? It tastes 10 times better than it actually looks. So good. Nice and crispy. I think I cooked this just about as long as it needed. Could have gone a little bit longer. That is insane. It's a Birria quesadilla. It's not a pizza. Birria pizza sounds a bit better. Might encourage more people to click the video and watch. That is so, so good. Yeah, I could just eat that as it is.